It's time to take a look at the main slate here on Fantasy Spin for Week 12 NFL action. Make sure you stick around. I brought in Drew Davenport to help me break down everything we need to know about the biggest games, the biggest matchups, and once again, everything we need to know for Week 12 action over on Fantasy Spin. That is Drew Davenport. Find him over on X at Drew Davenport, Davenport. So, Drew, glad to have you back. We had you on last year, brought you back on this year. We got the Week 12 slate. I know you're just disappointed as eyes. We don't have the Texans on the slate to choose players from, but are there any particular games, players, or matchups that you're like, man, when we spin, these are the games, these are the players, this is what I want for our lineup?
Well, I'll tell you what, I saw that the Bears have scratched their top 3 linebackers for this week due to injury. Boy, it'd be nice to get one Mr. Jalen Warren on the slate there.
I am right there with you as well. So let's not bury the lead. Let's go ahead and spin it and see if we can get anybody here on the board that's interesting. So we don't get Jalen Warren, but we do get someone else from that game in Rome Odunze. I know there's questions about this Chicago passing attack, but man, perimeter wide receivers and receivers that can beat man coverage are great against this Steelers secondary. So it is our first spin, but are you intrigued enough by Rome Odunze to lock him in our flex spot?
I am actually. I would do that. You nailed it in the intro there. The Steelers defense has been a Jekyll and Hyde situation. We don't know when they're going to show up. My guess is on the road it's going to be a little bit different, and I just am not that excited about what the Steelers bring week to week. So yes, I'm excited enough about him to lock him in.
And Steelers allowing the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers on the season. So not that you need more for Rome Odunze. We will lock him in. Is there anybody else here on this first spin? I mean, Brian Thomas is a name, but the production hasn't matched the name value. You have Emmanuel Wilson, but as we're recording this on Friday afternoon, Jacobs is questionable. Seems like he'll play. Personally, I'm not intrigued by anybody on here, but curious your thoughts on any of the remaining guys.
Yeah, I'm not that excited about Lawrence. Fant has the problem of Gesicki coming back this week. Pollard's just been nothing special, and Spears has outscored him recently. You nailed it with Jacobs and Wilson. I think Jacobs wants to play. He's going to try to give it a go. Reportedly, it's about range of motion with his knee and like a kind of a serious bruise rather than anything else. But it feels to me a little bit odd that he couldn't go full with that kind of a diagnosis. So I'm not trusting Wilson here, certainly not where we sit today. And same thing with Thomas with his injury concerns and with the problems he had even before he got hurt. So yeah, I'm pretty much, Aubrey's a fun guy to think about. And frankly, sometimes it could be the key to unlocking the DFS slates and things like that. But here we got too much promise ahead of us. And I think the same thing with Jordan Addison. The way that the Vikings are playing, he's lucky to have scored what he did last week on a last-second touchdown. I guess maybe that isn't luck. That was a go-ahead touchdown. But he struggled. J.J. McCarthy's struggling. I'm not taking that against the Packers this week. So, yeah, Odunze is the only one I can see right now from our first spin that I really care about.
Fair enough. I can't really trust any Vikings, whether it's J.J. McCarthy or whether it's 9 under center. I don't care which one it is. Neither has been particularly good. So we can move right on and we'll go on and spin. And we do get Trey McBride up there.
Ooh.
Let me ask you this, because I'm not going to ask you, do we lock in Trey McBride? Because that's just like, Colby, what the F am I doing here if that's what you're asking me about Trey McBride? But let me say this. Do you think Trey McBride will be the top scoring tight end in the main slate on week 12? Because he gets Jacksonville, and the only team worse against tight ends this year has been Cincinnati.
Well, you nailed what I was going to say, because Cincinnati's awful, but I was actually looking at this matchup because I have McBride in a couple leagues. Jacksonville's just bad against the tight ends as well. Generally, after you get past Jacksonville's front 7, nobody is really scary on that defense. So yeah, McBride. I can't see anyone else. We've got Gadsden on the sideline for a bye. I guess Bowers makes sense in theory, but he's got Cleveland. So, yeah, I like McBride. I think I would agree with you. They're the top option at tight end.
Slam dunk with Trey McBride for me. Let's go right below him because we do have Travion Henderson. He's been phenomenal the last couple of weeks, but it seems like Mike Vrabel's boy, Ramondre Stevenson, is back. So In my seasonal leagues, I'm starting Travion Henderson. I'm going to roll with it and hope he continues to score the touchdowns and get the workload. But in a contest like this on Fantasy Spin, where we're trying to be in that top 10% of these main event contests to cash, I'm just worried enough about Ramondre
Yeah.
Stevenson coming back that it keeps me it keeps my excitement at bay when it comes to locking in Henderson. So are you more confident that Henderson's still the lead guy, or do you think they go back to their ways of he's kind of on the back burner?
Confident? No. I'm with you. My thought is rational coaching says ease Stevenson back in. You're not going to load him up and give him the lead role. And at very least, you're going to pay attention to the fact that Henderson was productive. I think that what a lot of people see when they see Henderson is they see a, a difficulty running between the tackles, but that's been a problem for the entire run game. It's not just isolated with Henderson. So whatever ails you can be fixed by the Cincinnati Bengals run defense. They give up, I believe, the most points in the league to, I'm just pulling this off the top of my head, but I believe it's the most points in the league to running backs.
Mhm.
And I think that you have to roll with that. I'm not confident in it, but in a situation like this where I do want to preserve some spins to kind of like try to hit some of the last couple spots. I think that he's good enough there as an RB2 that I want to lock him in because that Cincinnati defense is so bad. There is a scenario in which Henderson gets a couple touchdowns and Stevenson gets one. That's how bad they are. So I'm rolling with Henderson. I like him for a lock.
You have definitely quelled some of my concerns there. And while you were talking about that, I pulled it up here on the season on per fantasy points data on rushes in the A and B gaps. Ramondre Stevenson, 2.96 yards per carry. Travion Henderson, 4.08 yards per
Oh
carry. So
wow.
maybe there's a little bit of juice to be had there with Henderson. So I like locking him in as well. And plus, like you said, regardless of your position, if you play Cincinnati, you're immediately in the top 12 in my book. It's,
Absolutely.
you have to go with that. And then CeeDee Lamb does get Philly. I love the matchup for CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he shouldn't be out partying in Vegas in theory before this one, but that didn't really slow him down in week 11. So no reason not to lock in CD, right?
No reason not to. And can I whine for 3.4 seconds
Mm.
about the end of that game when he was wide open and that weird misconnection between Dak and Lamb? It was just so odd. It would have been 2 extra yards a catch and a touchdown. Anyway, that was weird. But yes, I'm locking in Lamb. I don't see any reason that you go away from a guy like him, no matter how well Pickens is playing. You don't know which week it's going to be, which one of these guys. And I think when you have a chance to lock in a guy that's top 5, you got to do it.
And Dallas on the season relatively pass happy in terms of pass rate over expectation. They're amongst the top 10 in the league. So no surprise there. Last one on this spin, because we're not going to go Cam Ward. I don't think we're really going to look at Wandale or Josh Jacobs. We do have Hunter Henry. The problem is we have him down in the flex spot. And it's like you look at some of these other names that we could get. I know I'm being pretty bold here, but Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, you have T. Higgins. We have Jackson Smith and Jigba, Ken Walker, guys like that we can get in the flex that in theory have higher upsides. But we said it with Trey McBride. There is no better matchup for a tight end than the Cincinnati Bengals. So the other kind of leverage point here is, well, what if other people are afraid to go 2 tight ends in their lineup? And we just happen to hit on arguably the best in Trey McBride, and then the other one who, in theory, has the best matchup on the board at the position.
It's an incredible matchup, and Henry was sitting on far too many waiver wires this week because he hasn't been super impressive. He's been kind of up and down, but boy, oh boy, that Cincy matchup, it's mouthwatering. But I have to say, I guess I just don't care enough about it to lock it in the flex there. It's certainly a viable, if we had grabbed him in the tight end spot and locked him in there, that I'd be super pumped about that. But like you said, there's so much upside on the slate still sitting there that I can't do it. I think Henry could have a very nice week, and this could be a very high scoring game.
Yep. And even if he gets like 15 points in your tight end spot, that's great. But in my flex, I think we can do a little bit more. So at least on that spin, we came away with McBride, Henderson, and Lamb. So four positions in our lineup already filled. We got 4 to spin, 2 locks left, and 8 spins left to go. So we'll give the board another roll. And apparently it's a Patriots-friendly show here on this one because we get another New England Patriot. Is Drake May our quarterback for the week?
I think it's going to be hard to top that. So I think we're going to have to lock that in. Thinking about who's still left they're just there aren't that many high ceiling options. Like there are a few, but there aren't that many. And when we're playing a game like this, I think you can't look past May, especially against the Bengals.
Yep, Bengals at this probably won't shock anybody. Third most points per game allowed to quarterbacks. They're basically in the top 5 of every position, so it's just a matter of if they're 1, 2, or 3. That's essentially what it ends up being there. Tony Pollard, Xavier Worthy, Josh Downs. Do any of them do it for you?
0 doesn't even move the meter enough to talk about on any of the 3.
Perfect. I am on board with that.
Oh
So,
baby,
all right,
oh
so here's,
baby.
here's where it gets potentially interesting. We have Zay Flowers, who's in a good matchup against the Jets, traded their whole defense away basically at the trade deadline. So I like the spot for Zay Flowers. Then you have Jonathan Taylor, who is almost a walking 2 touchdowns every single game, does draw a very tough matchup against Kansas City. But does that matchup alone against Kansas City scare you off from locking in Jonathan Taylor?
That's crazy. You're exactly right, because Kansas City is, I believe, in the top 5 in fantasy points given up. Again, pulling off the top of my head, but I think that they are a really tough matchup. But if there's a couple guys in the league that you can point to that are matchup proof, Jonathan Taylor has to be one of them. It makes me nervous, don't get me wrong, but I think it's kind of crazy to spin him. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit nuts just to say now we're gonna give that up. The type of game that we're playing, game theory wise, as well as talking about having to hit in a DFS style situation, Taylor's going to be a little bit contrarian. I just don't think we can turn it down.
Yep. I think you're right. And as much as I like Zay Flowers, it would be borderline criminal of me to lock in Zay Flowers over Jonathan Taylor. So
I agree.
So now what happens here? We're down to 6 spins left. We've used all 6 locks. So we are effectively now spinning for that wide receiver and that flex spot. So if we were to get a Jackson Smith and Jigba and Brandon Aubrey, we now have to have the conversation of who do we take a lock off to put on Jackson Smith and Jigba to preserve him. So that is what we are now going for here with the last 2. So ultimately what we're looking for is 2 studs to fill these spots, or a good one, and we can talk about our locks, or basically it gets to a point of like, hey, we got Jacoby Myers and George Pickens. Fine options. I don't think we're going to do any better. Let's just lock that lineup and be done with it.
Okay.
Is Jacoby Myers and Cooper Kupp enough for you?
No. Okay. No, we got enough spins left. I think we got to keep rolling.
And we can risk it with 5 spins left there. So how about Devontae Smith and Alec Pierce?
It's like the algorithm decided to give us the hardest possible choice. That is brutal. Well,
I love Smith. I'm a big sucker for Smith this week.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, it's hard to say no to a guy who's got the Dallas defense. Now, I will say they've played better recently. They've gotten some guys back from injury, and so their secondary looks a little bit better. But, boy, it's hard to turn that down. And also the other guy sitting there looking at us is Alex Pierce, who's played really well recently. And, boy, oh, boy, it makes me nervous, though, to have 2 Colts there against Kansas City, because that defense is just playing so well. Oh boy, I don't.
And that's where it makes it tough. We have
Smith
left. That's one way to look at it. You know, we can risk it. I mean, it is a main event. You're trying to finish in that top 10% to win. The one thing I do really like about Devontae Smith is, yes, the Dallas defense definitely gotten a little bit better, but Philly's passing weapons have some pretty stark splits when it comes to man versus zone. AJ Brown is the man beater, whereas, and my dog knocked the cord, so the thing came off, so I got to get that back up. But what was I just saying? Oh, when it comes to man versus zone, AJ Brown's the man beater, Devontae Smith is the zone beater, and Dallas plays zone defense at one of the higher clips in the league.
Well, I have a interesting idea.
Okay.
What if we pull the lock off of Odunze, put it on Smith, and then we rolled our flex spots?
We could, I mean, we could certainly do that. I mean, we
theoretically do that.
Hey, this is our show. We can do whatever the hell we want. That's
and then we have what, 3 spins left?
All right, let me get this back up here.
Okay.
I hope my dog will apologize.
Tell your dog to chill.
Yeah, I think he's upset. His name's Cooper. He was upset that we passed on Cooper Kupp. I think that's what it was.
I like Odunze, but I'm not sure that I like him more than Smith here enough. And then if we pull the lock off Odunze, we lock in Smith at wide receiver. that gives us more flexibility because we're spinning for 2 flex spots.
Yep. It
I
also
think
does
I
give
think I
us a
like
little more volatility because we could get a kicker in there. We get a little
yeah.
backup tight end. You never know what can happen, but
But we got 4
I'm
spins, man. I'm feeling lucky.
we do have 4 spins. We get 2
All
tight
right.
ends, one of which is good.
Ugh, ugh. Okay,
I
I
don't
can't lock either one in,
nope.
over what we've got since we've got our locks. Yeah, we gotta roll it. Uh-oh, we got 3 this is what you're talking about. Oh, boy.
I love
Okay.
Amon-Ra. And the other thing too, the nice thing with Fantasy Spin is if a player does not play, we do get their pregame projection. So if the Packers deem that Jacobs is unable to go come Sunday morning, we're not stuck with a 0. We're getting 10.7 points from Jacobs in that instance.
I'm out. I'm
Elfine,
done. I
Elfine.
like it. I like it. So I think that I think that's our team. I mean, I don't think you can ask for more than grabbing St. Brown there in a flex. So
Mhm.
we essentially traded the Odunze, for Smith and Amon Ra. I really like that trade, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's called considered lucky or not. You're the expert here, but it feels pretty lucky to grab a guy like that in the flex. And Jacobs, who knows? Maybe everything loosens up and that knee swelling goes down, and he's good to go this weekend, and he pops in a couple touchdowns. He could also be a differentiator in our lineup too,
Yeah, and if everyone else is scared to play him because of,
right?
the kind of
Exactly.
issues surrounding him, we could separate with him there. So, last but not least, let's go ahead. Let's do a pick 'em entry here. So we get to pick the players from our lineup. It's all about optimism here. So we can only pick more. They got to go above their projected total. So, Drew, of the people on the screen we got in our lineup, Drake May, Trey McBride, etc. Of the projected point total shown on the screen, which of the players are you most confident in going over their projected total?
I think I'm going to go with the aforementioned Devonte Smith that we
Hmm.
talked about. I think that 14.9 feels a little conservative. I'll take him.
Hmm.
And then the other one that I like, believe it or not, is Travion Henderson.
Okay.
I know that's a bit of an odd pick there, but I just that Cincinnati defense is so bad, and Mike Vrabel is in love with pounding people when he can, and if he can pound that Cincinnati team and prove, the tough guy stuff, like we can run the ball, and this is what we're going to do in January, and that feels like a very Mike Vrabel esque thing to do. That's I'm going out on a not not very thin limb there to say that I like Henderson against Cincinnati.
Well, I'll go on a less thin limb, and I'm going to take Trey McBride against Jacksonville. As bad as Cincinnati is, Jacksonville is almost as bad against the tight end position. And with Jacoby Brissett, Arizona's been one of the pass happiest teams in the league. My case in point, he had 47 completions his last time out. So I will leave it at
NFL
that.
record.
Yeah. McBride's like at this point, he's like a walking 8 receptions guaranteed. Gets us, if it goes 8 for 70 or 8 for 80 and a touchdown, we're well past that. So we're going to lock that in. We're going to put 1,000 tokens to win 5,000, try to 5x our money there. That's the lineup. That is the week 12 lineup that we're entering into the main event
That's a
contest.
beast.
And that's that. You got all the info that you need to know. We talked about the matchups. You got to get inside the brain of Drew Davenport. So on top of following Drew at Drew Davenport FF over on X, Drew, where else can they find you this fantasy football season?
Yeah, I've got my Patreon network, the Fantasy Football Lawyer, and of course, in the off season is my draft show. But right now, during the season, you just want to find me on Twitter and Patreon.
Yep. And once again, at Drew Davenport FF over on X. You can find me on X at Colby R. Conway. And if you want to spin to win and experience the most exciting and newest way to play daily fantasy sports this football or basketball or hockey season, head on over to the Google Play or the Apple App Store, download the Fantasy Spin app today, and we will see you on the leaderboard. What's up, y'all? Hope you enjoyed the content. For the avoidance of doubt, please note that I, Colby Conway, am a DFS player entering these contests under the username Colby Conway. The strategies and recommendations in this video do not necessarily reflect the views of Fantasy Spin. Please play responsibly and visit fantasyspin.com/responsible gaming to take advantage of Fantasy Spin's responsible gaming resources.